Hello everybody, welcome back to a whole new week here on the channel. As promised, we're going to take a look at the troll-inspired log garden today. Do a couple other things, but I thought I'd share with you kind of an interesting thing that's happened since I've been doing these basically daily posts, and in particular since I have taken Monday as a me day. I find most of the day Monday is spent, yes, doing things, but feeling guilty because I'm not putting up a video. So yeah, I find that, to me, that's just really funny, and thought I'd share. But let's get back to gardening, shall we? Probably today's thumbnail right there. But you know, you step back from it and Troll's Little Garden's looking pretty good. I mean, we've got the basil. Just transplanted this last week. It seems very happy living in that bucket slash planter instead of its little styrofoam cup. I moved the ahi lemon drop over to join these guys. It seems to have dealt with coming outside fairly well. I certainly don't see any aphids on it. I certainly don't see any flowers on it. So we're just gonna have to ride that one out and see what comes of it. Just up from that though is the Manitoba tomato. Starting to see some very old flower clusters in here. So I'm thinking we're gonna start to see some little green spheres on this plant fairly soon. Got a nice big open tomato flower there. Look back for the camera. Very nice. It's a very productive tomato. I am quite glad that I came across this strain, and even more so that I saved some. This year was pretty slim pickings up at the Home Hardware. And we've got the Crimson Red. This is another one of the coffee can peppers. I've got an idea about this I want to share with you guys, but for now we're just looking at the plants. And we can see lots of flower balls. Some of them are starting to drop down, which generally on my plants seems to indicate they're about to open up as flowers. So I think taking those older peppers off of this was a really, really good choice. And it's going to start to put on some serious growth for me. Speaking of serious growth, how's that sage look? Beautiful. So thick. Now, that's interesting too, is the stuff that's growing on last year's growth, because this did come out of the garden from last year, overwintered, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the stuff from the overwintered growth, very thick, kind of short. The stuff from the brand new growth that's sprouting up is a much longer leaf. It's a much skinnier leaf. So I'm very curious, because I mean, look at those, side by side. I get a better angle on that. Like, I didn't drop any more seeds or anything in there. There's no, well, logical reason that is presenting itself to me, other than this is just what the light does to the plant. Stronger light, longer leaves. Less intense, stubbier leaves. But wouldn't they grow longer now that it's getting sunlight? That's the bit that's confusing me. Oh, see now here, is this a tragedy? Is this a success? We get all these peppers on here, right? But none of them are taking any real color. The closest I'm getting is this darkening there, which it's not really the purpling of the St. Thomas Bane. It's not really going red. But what is concerning me is with all of these peppers on here, the plant seems to be dying. So I'm thinking today I'm going to harvest a whole lot of green chilies. I guess I'll be making some green chili salt because I don't know what else to do with them. And I'm going to hope that by taking all of those off of there, the plant gets an opportunity to really come back and put on some good solid growth for me, because I have been really pleased with the productivity of this one so far. And granted, I have a few other peppers that are also being nice and productive, but I was really, really hoping to see this carry on throughout the season. So, just don't know. Start from here though, starting to peek into the shot. Look at that rosemary. Oh, and I know I say this probably every time I play with this, but I really wish the power of YouTube could send some of these smells to you. I mean, oh, that is so pungent. It's fantastic. Looking at one of our peppers in those Root Pro pouches, this poor Nepalese bell has suffered so much and so long, and yet still lives. Not doing much more than staying alive, but it is still alive. I just don't know what to do with that. This, on the other hand, this I think is going to turn into some fabulous sauces and pestos. The color on that, and again, if you crush one of the leaves, it is almost as aromatic as that rosemary, which another waft of that just hit me in the face. Oh, so good. With the contrast between the leaves, I love this dark opal basil. I am going to let this go to flower on at least one of these stems. I know that will take away a little bit from the flavor in the leaves, but I want to have more of a seed supply for this. I don't think I have a lot left for the dark opal basil. And having grown it here, it should be slightly better for our climate. So in theory, home-saved seeds are better than store-bought seeds, right? Like, isn't that the way that works? Last of our coffee can peppers here in Troll's garden. As you can see, every time I say that now, I laugh and think, Rev, good job, man, well done. But anyway, I clearly haven't put more nutrients in here, but there's been plenty of rain. Right, look at those roots. Oh, beautiful roots. And if you look in there, that water is clear. There is nothing but rainwater in that thing. So today we're going to mix up some nutrients, top up the 4 coffee cans, which hopefully will help that one recover after we harvest it. And I'm going to put some drainage holes in because of all this rain, to about where I figure the bottom of the cup is, off to the side or whatever, so it doesn't muck up my labels. But that way, as the rain comes in, it's going to overflow out the side, and I won't be drowning those air roots, because those are important, right? Like, Rev, you do a lot of this type of stuff. It's key that I don't mess with those air roots, as I understand it. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to put drainage holes in the side. We're going to mix up some new nutrients. These should look a lot better when we look at them on Sunday, or take a closer look at this garden probably next Tuesday. Anybody else noticing a pattern here? Got the red pear tomato that has also recently joined the Troll Forge. Oh no! I just snapped that off. I am a bad gardener. Okay, so down here, and we won't touch them, we can see another cluster of tomatoes forming on this red pear. So this is supposed to be one of those smaller varieties of tomatoes that kind of has a pear shape as compared to a sphere like you get from your normal cherry tomato. So I'm kind of excited. Never grown these before. I have no idea if it'll actually be a good sauce tomato or paste tomato or what, but it sure seems to like our environment. And so far, all of the tomatoes that I have in these Root Pro, I'm pretty sure it's Root Pro fabric pots, they're doing really, really well. I am very, very impressed. But anyway, let's go find my nutrient jug and start mixing up some juice for these poor plants. I'm sure they'd be real happy to get it. And if there's any extras, I imagine some of these plants could use a little bit of a boost too. So yes, peppers first though. Everybody else has got their own soil to try and draw stuff from. So we're going to start by putting some drainage holes into the Not a Super Chili, and then we'll do the Sugar Rush and the Crimson Red and the Ahi Lemon Drop, of course. You know, everybody gets equal treatment around here. But first, let's take a look at those roots. They don't look terribly healthy, but I want to see how far down this cup goes. This cup goes quite a ways down there. Actually, much farther than I thought. Okay, so armed with that information, we're going to put our hole kind of just above where my sticker is. And I have been way overfilling these for the health of the pepper. Learn something new every day if you just kind of look around you, eh? Doesn't want to go through some dull bits. About the same place on the other side. And that is about it. I'm going to dump out the old water that's in there, but we'll get to that in a minute. Alright, so we're just going to pull this out for now. Tuck these roots away. Do a good old-fashioned double cup. Sorry about the squish there, guys. And go dump this out. Well, dump it out on the brown lawn. That was not a nice looking color. Alright. And this is the part where the organic keyboard warriors want to prep your fingers. Put down your beverage, you're going to want to type now. Because at the end of the day, all I really want is to harvest my 100 pounds. I will be using Miracle-Gro in my garden. I have it, it's cheap, it's effective, and it's a lovely shade of pink. No, but seriously, I do have it. I am going to use it. It doesn't really matter if you switch out the nutrients along the way with these things as much as it, well, how to word this? As long as you start fresh every time, right? Like, we dumped it out, we're good to go. I am not mixing this to max strength. This is not sponsored. I just happen to have it. Again, like I say, it was cheap, easy to order online. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons into 1 gallon. It's under strength, but perfect. I'd rather under fertilize than over fertilize. And so far that seems to be working for this garden. So, it's crystallized nutrient. I think we all know how this works. Measure it up, dump it in, shake the bugger out of it, and you're good to grow. And as easy as a quick shake, we have our lovely pink beverage for the plants. Don't get me wrong, I love the general hydroponic stuff that they sent me with that Euro Grower, but I know it's closer to fish safe and fish friendly, so I'm saving it for indoor stuff, and I'm just going to use the Miracle-Gro outside. And it just is what it is. If this shatters any illusions that you had about me, sorry, it is what it is. So, we're going to fill this up, hopefully not wasting too much through my new drainage holes here. And like I say, I know now that I was definitely overfilling these before for where the roots are. So with any luck, I should have a whole lot of happier pepper plants. I do have some leakage here, and that makes sense. I guess I displaced some with the cup and some with the roots. Whatever, a little bit of loss for hopefully a whole lot of gain. Like I said, that stuff was cheap. And before we're done with this, not a super chili today, we're definitely going to harvest this. And stick around till the end of the video. Not only will the dog eventually shut up, I'm going to make some green chili fire salts out of these. So yeah, going to repeat this process with all 3 of the other plants, and then we'll get back to whatever is going to happen in the rest of this video. Alright, well, I wasn't going to show updates of this process, but I just got to the crimson red, and this has a really nasty film on the surface, so I'm glad I'm doing a full-on replacement. And these roots have gone way downhill. That's pathetic. So, I am thinking, being over full, lack of drainage holes, all those things, probably contributing factors there. Hopefully, we're going to see some really nice growth out of this. There's a lot of flower starts on there. Alright, now I'm back to getting her done. So as it turns out, it takes less than a gallon to actually top up all 4 of these coffee can peppers. That's good. I'm definitely overwatering them before. Really looking forward to see some green come up in that plant. And I believe I mentioned this, but anybody else notice something new on there? Little flower starts perhaps? Oh yeah. All 3 of the Sugar Rush varieties have started to put their flowers out pretty much at the same time. And from what I've seen on other channels, I am really, really excited about that. So, before I'm finished here, I still want to harvest those for some green chili salt. But if we're going to do green chili harvest, then I kind of feel like I should take some of these here from the other one that claims it's a super chili, but these don't look the same as the last plant, do they? So, the dangers of cross-pollination, people. The dangers are real. Anyway, I think I might as well grab these off of here too. Hopefully, again, it will help the plant grow with what it's got. Everything here could use a good boost with the nutrients too. I'm sure they all grew up on the hydroponic stuff. And yet, for the most part, they all seem to be doing pretty well. Empty spot up there. I won't be growing shishitos outside anymore. Might try again when there's a greenhouse, but anyway, this is not a pepper patch update. This is a Trolls Garden update, turning into making green chili fire salts. So here we've got the ones from the super chili that looks a little bit more like a super chili, and this is the definitely not a super chili. There's rather a few pods that came off that. I've had whole season harvests that were only about that size. So yeah, that should definitely help this plant do much better in the days, weeks, and months to come. However, considering how I make my fire salt, that's not a lot of peppers for it. So I think we're going to go steal some early ones off the Ahi Ahuchapan out front. As you can see, this is, oh, it did it again. As you can see, mosquitoes in my face. Ah, brutal. This is clearly a very productive pepper variety as well. These go kind of an orangey color, according to my little bit of research, which means about 10 seconds on Google. And therefore, to me, these count as a green chili because they're not ripe. I'm going to get a few of these and get inside because it's incredibly mosquito-y in this particular patch of the yard. And I'm getting eaten alive in my tank top. Not related to Troll's Garden or peppers, but check out those zucchini coming along nicely. There's another one coming up there. So hopefully that's the 2 I need to cover the plant start. After that, it's profit, return on investment, right? So between the small plant and the mosquito dive bombing, I only took 4 off that as well. But we're in the kitchen, so I need to tidy up a little bit, and let's get to making some green chili fire salts. So some of you may recall I'm trying to grow my way to 100 pounds of vegetables this year, which anywhere other than Canada is, you know, not unreasonable, but let's face it, I'm not that good at this gardening thing. And I live in Manitoba, so everything is getting weighed in the attempt to hit that goal. I harvested some kale and some Swiss chard the other day, and I have to say it made some fabulous, not exactly spinach puffs, but close enough. That takes us to 45 grams. Chili peppers, while they may put out the numbers, they don't put out the weight. Okay, so you homesteaders may recognize how this works, right? You squirrel stuff away, you pack things fairly tight, you make the best use of the space you've got, right? Okay, so back in that coffee tin is where we stash the rock salts that I need for this. And I pull out the dehydrator, and I come across this. Just stack of knives. And they're not like, there's not a lot of variation here, okay? We got cleaver. You hear that thunk? Cleaver. Cleaver. Sharpening rod. Scary ass, I don't even know what kind of knife. And there's 3 of these. What are these? Are these finger removing scissors? You know, I think Shocks and I need to have a little talk. But anyway, oh, this is actually mine. At least stainless steel was all together. The ultimate barbecue spatula for those monster burgers. Dream big. Someday I'll have a steak that takes up more than a corner of that. Anyway, here is what I was going for. So as it turns out, there is a perfectly reasonable explanation for those knives, and it is still a little questionable, but apparently the finger snipping scissors, I was supposed to get a pair of those for gardening, for bigger branches and stuff, and they're apparently for cutting chickens or something. And the cleavers were for a little bit of outdoor recreation fun. She got them basically dirt cheap, clearance kind of stuff, you know, like we do. And since they're all solid metal, thought they might be a little bit of fun for lumberjacking in the backyard, hatchet tossing, whatever you want to call it. But at that price, why not? Anyway, back to the plan, which is to try and make some green chili fire salt. The most distracted channel on YouTube, I tell you what. Not much of a list for this year's harvest, is it? But, you know, it's just getting started. Basically all I'm doing here is I'm entering what it is. Like yesterday it was the greens and 179 grams of that, so not bad. And then today it's mixed green chilies. My camera sucks today. Only got 45 grams of that, but we add it to the total, so we're up to 224. I think I need, what, 45,000 grams or something, or 454,000 grams? I don't know. I'll have to do some math to get my 100-pound total, but yeah. Alright, so that's that. Next is that. So I'm going to take these regular kitchen snips that don't look all freaky and stuff, and I'm just going to cut the ends off, basically the caps off the peppers, dump them into there. We'll be putting the peppers in here, and we're going to have to remember that 45-gram weight of peppers because it kind of factors in heavily to how much salt we're going to put in this. It's a little like science class here, isn't it? Alright, so this is where we need to remember that 45 grams of peppers that we started with. I have tared my scale, so even though I've got a funky bowl on here, we're good to go. And I need 3 times that, because for my fire salts I generally use a 3-to-1 ratio, which means I'm looking for 135 grams, 137, it's close enough for me, Caesar and the Praetorian Guard. So there we go. That worked out well. This is basically how much salt we're going to make with our 45 grams of peppers. So we've got all this in our mini food processor. We call it the Zippy Zip because why not? This particular one has to be held closed because it's been through this a few times and you know, is kind of loud. So we will check back on this basically after I have done everything in this little machine's power to liquefy those peppers. You can easily look at this and see all of the seeds that came out of there. If you are particularly picky, this is a good time to try and separate those. I am not yet satisfied with how small those are, so I'm going to chop them up a little bit more and we're going to start adding our salt. Okay, so I'm looking at those after some more vigorous chopping and I'm starting to think here we have yet another tool around the property that I need to sharpen the blades on. So, since I'm not doing that right now, and I am doing this, I'm going to get started adding just a little bit of the salt at first. Zip it on through. I like to start by adding just a little bit of the salt because I feel it helps really just pound the juices right out of those little bits of pepper. So I'll add a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and eventually my whole 135 grams will be in here. So just a quick shot of it as I'm adding the last of the salts there. And as I said, this is a 3-to-1 mix. Sometimes I've gone as high as 5 parts salt to 1 part pepper. I might actually add another part salt to this. It's still very, very green. But one last zip. So in the spirit of small batch creation, I'm just leaving this at 3-to-1. Now it's time to sit in a bowl and basically dry. And there you have it. Essentially, that's it. I will now put this on top of the toaster oven or somewhere kind of warm, maybe like the top of the fridge or whatever, and let it dry. Every time I walk by it, I'll move it around a little bit. But essentially what's happening is my house is reeking of early chilies, which is delightful, and the salt is slowly absorbing all of that moisture, which means when you grind this up later, because putting it through the food processor didn't really change the size. It might have rounded a few edges, but that's about it. Basically, it just smears the salt and the peppers together and they kind of, well, try and infuse. But yeah, when you grind that up later, the flavor that comes out of that is going to be, whoops, salt's everywhere, so reminiscent of these early chilies. It's fantastic. This is something I've been doing for a few years now. If you check out my cooking channel, you can find out when I actually started figuring this out. And Dave, I hope you're watching, because I want to see something from your palate and your amazing pepper grow to go with this. And actually, Charles, you have a pretty sexy pepper patch too. I'd like to see Charles and Dave produce some sort of fire salt from the 2018 harvest. Alright boys, it's out there. That said, I'm not trying to inspire any contests or anything crazy like that. I'm just saying you both have some pretty amazing palates from what I hear in the PLC, and you need to give this a try. Popcorn will never be the same again. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up for this Tuesday update. Tomorrow we're probably going to be downstairs looking at all the stuff going on with the aquaponics, and I have to say, there's a lot going on with the ahi pennick in that aquaponic garden. So yeah, check back tomorrow.